If you're thinking about building a pond or in the midst of planning a pond project, this is one of the most valuable tools that you can find on the internet. I'm just going to type web soil survey and USDA into my search bar. And the first search result will be from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service website. And on that website, they have a web soil survey. This is an electronic mapping based system that has compiled all of the old paper soil surveys that were conducted across the country into a digitally accessible format that really has a lot of great data if you're planning a pond or really any other outdoor project where you need to be concerned about soils. So I'm just going to navigate using the zoom feature, which I clicked right here on the magnifying glass, and then I'm going to move the map just slightly here. I'll zoom back in. So what we're looking for is we're looking to determine the characteristics of the soils that will either allow us to build a pond without amending the soils or give us some indication of whether we'll be able to build that pond with the addition of bentonite or a two-part polymer, and what the challenges might be for construction. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit more here, and then we will do what's called defining your area of interest. So these two buttons right here will allow us to either drag a rectangle, or we can do a polygon for the area that we want to look at. And in this particular case, we want to get a sense of what the soils are in this area for potentially a 1.5 to 2 acre pond. So you can see it zoomed into the area of interest. I can also zoom back out if I want to, just to get a better sense of the surrounding area. So now's where we get to access the data that is behind this map. And the first thing that we will do is on the tabs on the upper portion of this page, we will select the soil map. And so what we'll see from this soil map is that we have 3 distinct soil types here. And again, this is based on decades of field work that the USDA has done to define the soil types across the country. So it's a really powerful tool, and you can really learn a lot from it. So you can see the designation for the soil unit, the name, how many acres we have of that particular soil within our area of interest, and what percentage. So the web soil survey is set up a little bit like a website that you would purchase something from. You'll see an add to the shopping cart button up on the upper right hand side. That's not going to charge you for anything. It's all completely free of charge. But what that acts as during the data acquisition process is essentially a filing cabinet. So if I click add to the shopping cart, it's going to ask me to enter a name. And we're just going to call it Natural Waterscapes Pond. And what it's done is it's added this soil map to that shopping cart. It's going to create a PDF file for us at the end of the process. Sometimes if it's a small area, you'll get access to that PDF file right away. And if it's a larger area that the system has to work on a little bit, they will ask for your email address, and then you'll get an email download link to access that data. So let's talk a little bit about some of the soil types or some of the soil data that we want to look at in the planning process. So we can certainly, for that soil map, we can click into any of these units. Let's take a look at the Hartleton, and it will give us a description of that soil, talking about where it's found, what the profiles look like, what the slope is, how deep bedrock might be, a whole litany of information there. That was all added to that PDF that we're building in the shopping cart when we clicked on that. So we'll look at that in a little bit more detail later on. So let's go to the Soil Data Explorer. And what that will do is it will allow us to start to add some of the things that are important to us. So you can see that there is a wide variety of parameters here that are accessible. We're going to look at the three that we like to pull when we're evaluating a site. So under water management, we'll click on the first tab, which is embankments, dikes, and levees. And this is going to generate a rating for us of how well the soil might perform in an embankment, dike, or levee. So we'll just go ahead and we're going to ask it to add a detailed description to the PDF when we create that, but we're going to go ahead and view the rating. And you can see that we use a kind of traffic light style of legend for this. So green would be good. Yellow is kind of a cautionary state, and then red probably has some issues. So we're going to go ahead and add that to the cart as well. And if we click on view description again, we'll get some additional detail there. So we're just going through the process of building the PDF at this point. So we'll go pretty quickly through the rest of it so that we can then talk about some more of the details. So we want excavated ponds. So we're going to ask for the detailed description there as well. We'll click to view the rating, and we will add that to the shopping cart as well, which again is just building that PDF file. And the next one that we want to get here is the pond reservoir areas. So this is a rating for how well that soil on its own will likely hold water. And you can see if I scroll down here, I can get into some of the reasons for the rating. And again, we'll go through that once we have the report built. And in this case, we have very shallow groundwater, so you can see the depth to water. And these are on a scale of 0 to 1, 0 being not limited at all, and 1 being the most limited. So we've already added that to the cart. Let's move on to our soil properties and qualities, and we can come up with a couple of very valuable ones here. So under the soil physical properties, we are interested in the percent clay. And one of the things when we get into the physical properties that we need to do is specify how deep we want to look at this. So we're going to say we want to start at the surface and go 120 inches or 10 feet deep with that evaluation. And you can also select the dominant condition, the dominant component, which is weighted by how thick those conditions are, a weighted average, a min, or a max. So we typically, for this one, will select the dominant condition, and because that's going to give us just a good overview. So we'll click through that, and we can see that we've got some variety there, and the percentage of clay. Not a lot of variety though. So we'll add that to the shopping cart. Next one is kind of optional, but it can provide some interest, percent sand. So again, we'll set that to dominant condition. I'm going to go to a depth of 10 feet. And if you know you're only excavating to 6 feet, and perhaps it's an instance where you're digging down 6 feet and building an embankment up to get additional depth, you can certainly go to only the depth that you're interested in. So again, we'll generate that, and that is what percentage of the soil is sand. And we've added that to the cart. The next one's probably the single most important measure that we have, and it's the saturated hydraulic conductivity. That is a measure of how quickly water will move through the soil when it's saturated. And it's important that it be saturated because water in soil pores has to overcome pore pressure. So a dry soil will often not convey water as quickly as a wet soil. So that's why the soil sample is saturated before the testing is completed. Here we want to actually choose a different aggregation method. We actually want the minimum or maximum. So we want the fastest hydraulic conductivity that exists in this range, because that gives us kind of a worst case scenario. So here we're going to again put our 0 to 10 feet in, select inches, and view the rating. And you see a pretty wide variety of conductivities here, ranging from the Hartleton at 21.8, the Watson at 9.17, and the Elvira at 4.5. When we're looking at saturated hydraulic conductivity, the lower the number, the better. So we actually want to see that number as close to zero as possible to have what we would consider a well-sealed pond. So in this instance, the Elvira is a soil that we've built ponds in before, so we know that it's possible. It's really important to get good compaction when you're finishing the pond bottom, but it's also a soil that's at 4.5 micrometers per second is marginal for pond construction. So we would likely want to supplement that soil with some bentonite clay during the construction process so that we could ensure that we have a good seal on the bottom. And that really depends on your water balance. If you have an excessive amount of water coming into the pond, then at 4.5, you're going to be just fine. But if your pond is pretty delicately balanced and you have significant evaporation and some seepage, then with a smaller watershed, then you probably want to look at supplementing. So we'll go ahead and add this to the shopping cart. And those are really the critical components that we want to look at in this soil report. And again, you can use it for a lot of other things. So we'll click on through here, finish adding that. So you can see that I didn't finish adding that, so I'll just need to jump back into the correct tab here and open the physical properties and the saturated hydraulic conductivity, minimum or maximum. All our data is still in there for that. So I'll view the content and add it to the cart. So there we have that. And then the only other thing we need to do is go to the shopping cart, and it's going to pre-build that report for us. We'll click checkout. You can see that Get It Now is grayed out because the report is a little bit larger than the preferred size. So we'll just go ahead and enter my email here. And literally within a few minutes, that report will be in my mailbox. Once I get that, we'll open it up and take a look at that in a little bit more detail and explain what things we're looking for as we evaluate the pond soil. But this is a very good starting point for you if you're getting ready to build a pond or you're not sure if your site is suitable for a pond. Again, free data, very good, high quality soil data. It's been collected over decades by the government, the USDA, NRCS, and get you off on the right foot so that you can plan appropriately for your construction project. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. We're Natural Waterscapes, and our website is naturalwaterscapes.com. Our phone number is 877-493-7660, and you can always email support at naturalwaterscapes.com.